You're listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Keane. I am the editor-in-chief of the internationally renowned journal Fire Ecology. Can't wait for you to hear this paper we're going to be talking about today because it was published in Fire Ecology, and Fire Ecology is a journal that publishes anything about the ecological aspects of fire science. The paper we're going to be talking about today is Major Changes in Climate, Vegetation, and Ecological Resilience in Recent Decades Suggest Climate-Smart Management Strategies for Western U.S. dryland, shrublands, and woodlands. Three of the many authors on this paper are here to talk to us today. We have Jeanne Chambers, Jessi Brown, and Sarah Barga. Jeanne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Bob. I'm Jeanne Chambers. I'm an emeritus senior scientist with USDA Forest Service Rocky Mountain Research Station, and I'm located in Reno, Nevada.
Jessi, how about you?
Thanks, Bob. I'm Jessi Brown. I'm a quantitative ecologist who's providing support to the Reno Rocky Mountain Research Station office, and I'm also based in Reno, Nevada.
Sarah Barga, how are you?
Yes, I'm Sarah Barga. I'm a research botanist with the U.S. Forest Service Rocky Mountain Research Station based in Cedar City, Utah.
Well, welcome all of you three. Thanks for the time, and let's talk about the paper.
Well, we wrote this paper because resource and fire managers tasked with developing strategies for reducing fire risk while still sustaining the ecosystems they manage are often faced with moving targets. Nowhere is this more evident than in dryland, shrublands, and woodlands of the western U.S. Climate warming, invasion by non-native annual grasses, and altered fire regimes are causing larger and more severe fires. In combination, this is resulting in ecosystem transitions to undesirable states and placing both people and species at risk. Current management strategies are often static. They target things like the degree of departure or change from reference conditions. Strategies based on the effects of climate change are typically based on projections of future climate, and they often have a very high degree of uncertainty. We took a different approach in this paper. We evaluated how changes in climate in recent decades were affecting ecological resilience, or in other words, the recovery potential of ecosystems, vegetation trajectories of those ecosystems, and then their fire regimes. We believe that the information on these ongoing changes could be used to develop effective and climate-smart management strategies.
This is a wonderful paper, Jeanne. I really enjoyed reading it. It is kind of complicated for the major reader, so we're going to take this step by step. First of all, Sarah, where was the study conducted and what ecosystems were involved?
We used a USDA Forest Service wildfire crisis strategy landscape, they're now calling them high-risk landscapes, to develop our approach. It encompasses the Pine Valley Ranger District, which is located in the southeast corner of Utah. This area is experiencing widespread invasion of non-native annual grasses and expansion of pinyon juniper trees, and extensive wildfires. It's also characterized by a diversity of shrubland ecosystems, and the issues it's facing are representative of many dryland shrublands and woodlands.
I just love the approach that you guys did with these methods. Jessi, can you talk about these methods and what is special about them?
Sure. So we used a landscape approach to evaluate the ongoing changes in our focal area. This approach used readily available geospatial data, such as the Rangeland Analysis Platform, or RAP, that covered the years from 1980 through 2019. And we have two key elements to our approach. Firstly, we assessed the ecological conditions of the area, which included the dominant ecological types, their climatic regimes, and relative resilience to disturbance and resistance to invasion. And then secondly, we evaluated the direction and magnitude of change in climate, then resilience and resistance, and those dominant plant functional types. And we'd like to emphasize that given the widespread availability of related long-term ecological and geospatial data, our general approach is applicable to any dryland, shrubland, or woodland facing similar issues.
Yeah, I love the approach. The spatial approach was really good. But you know what? I am just sitting on pins and needles here. I have to know the results. Jeanne, can you talk about it?
Sure. So our approach showed that climate warming in dryland, shrublands, and woodlands has been associated with really very large changes in vegetation and fuels, and this resulted in decreases in both resilience to wildfire and resistance to annual grass invasion. And this was even in the absence of wildfires. The perennial grasses and forbs that are really needed to sustain these ecosystems following wildfires and management treatments were decreasing. However, the annual forbs and grasses that elevate wildfire spread and degrade ecosystems were increasing. The pinyon and juniper trees that increase woody fuels and cause more severe fires were also increasing. Although most wildfires were likely burning within expected time intervals, the area burned during a single event was likely larger than in the past, and post-fire outcomes had changed. Many of these areas were converting to invasive annual grasses after fire. Importantly, an increase in temperature between 1980 and 2019 resulted in an 11% decrease in the area's resilience to wildfire and resistance to the invasive annual grasses.
That is really, really fascinating. This paper is full of wonderful information like that. And all I could wonder is how will this information be used by management and scientists? Sarah or Jeanne, you want to talk about that?
Sure, I can start out. So we used our results to develop climate-smart management strategies that can help direct ecosystems into conditions that can decrease fire risk, increase resistance to plant invasions, and reduce vulnerability to climate change. These strategies include monitoring the ongoing changes in both climate and vegetation to identify where shifts in climate are resulting in decreases in resilience and resistance and loss of climate suitability for native species. Management actions to maintain or increase perennial grasses and forbs are essential for minimizing expansion of invasive annual grasses, and this includes activities such as assisted migration, post-fire restoration, and improved livestock management. Woody fuel treatments can reduce the risk of high-severity fire and reduce competition with desirable understory species in these shrublands and woodlands.
So to summarize, our management recommendations illustrate that information on high-value resources such as wildlife habitat, combined with an understanding of the relative resilience and resistance of the potential treatment area, can be used to determine the most effective types of treatments and how we can prioritize their locations across the landscape. Climate-smart management strategies, such as those we developed here, can be used to facilitate change that limits transitions to undesirable ecological state and then also prevents collapse of ecosystem functions and services.
Thanks all of you for helping us understand this paper. It's a wonderful paper. Listeners, you've got to read this paper. It's one of the good ones that provide an interesting look into the future under climate changing. And my last question is always, Jeanne, do you want to recognize any co-authors of funding agencies?
Yes, we would certainly like to acknowledge our co-authors. These were Sophia Koutsakis, Rick Miller, Rhett Boswell, Rob Heckman, Mark Madsen, Matt Reeves, Vaughn Thacker, and Stephanie Yelnick. This work really could not have been accomplished without the support and assistance of the Rocky Mountain Research Station, Pine Valley Ranger District, and Dixie National Forest. We particularly appreciate Joe Rexsteiner, the Pine Valley District Ranger, because he helped with all aspects of this study.
Again, thank you all three for coming here. I'd like to say goodbye to you. So thanks. And listeners, if this paper interests you, as it does me, you can download it for free. Jeanne and the rest of the authors have already paid the freight. Go ahead and download that paper, read all about this wonderful project, and use it in everyday life. I want to thank you for listening, and please tune in again for the next Fire Ecology Chats.
Thank you for listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our show and leave us a review. To learn more about fire ecology and support our future work by becoming a member, visit fireecology.org. FireEcology.org.